My frustration with Katt Williams comes from, brother, I want to be a friend. Katt, I want to move on. Can we move on, man?
25 years without ever being in the same building with me. Kevin Hart show.
They had to start inviting your enemies.
Katt Williams showing up at Kevin Hart's Netflix roast was unexpected, but what followed shocked everyone even more. What was meant to be a night of celebration quickly changed when Katt began dropping jokes that felt more like accusations, pulling the audience between laughter and shock. Then, in a surprising move, the two finally stood on the same stage and appeared to put an end to their feud in front of a live audience. Did Katt Williams and Kevin Hart actually end their long-running feud for good? Or was this finally Katt Williams exposing the truth about Kevin Hart? Join us as we unveil what Katt Williams just exposed about Kevin Hart that shocked everyone. The roast that may have changed everything. Rivalries in entertainment are nothing new. Two opposing forces wanting to be the best in their field and making it known. Katt Williams and Kevin Hart have not only dominated comedy, but they may, in fact, be behind the biggest rivalry in comedy history. However, things seem to be changing in 2026. The bad blood between them appears to be washing away. Both of them, seen as the two shortest men in comedy, shook hands and hugged it out on stage as they publicly squashed their over-a-year-long beef. The long-standing tension is not lost on the fans who have been following the two comedians. Katt Williams has criticized Kevin over and over again. The criticisms escalated through podcast jabs, where Katt labeled him as one of the people who cause problems for black celebrities. The rivalry quickly went from professional jabs to a personal feud. At one point, Katt Williams even challenged Kevin Hart to a multi-format showdown involving comedy, rap, basketball, and even boxing, with $5 million on the table. Katt told Kevin that he would be at Kevin's hometown in Philadelphia for a performance, and if Kevin really knew his onions, he should accept the challenge. It became clear at that point that the two comedians might have gone past any possible reconciliation, which is why the recent events left fans in shock. A few days later, Katt appeared on the radio in Atlanta and walked back part of that challenge, admitting he may have gone too far, though he maintained that his intentions were to address the root of the issue. From there, the rivalry cooled off publicly for a while. Kevin Hart continued his rise, expanding his presence in Hollywood with films, specials, and business ventures. Netflix streamed the roast of Kevin Hart live on Sunday, May 10, 2026 in Los Angeles. This was Netflix's second big live roast after the Tom Brady one in 2025. There was no way big celebrities would miss out on this, and Kevin's friends, including Dwayne Johnson and Regina Hall, were there to roast him.
I know what you're all assuming is that I'm here to carry another shitty Kevin Hart vehicle.
But when comedian Katt Williams stepped on the stage to roast Kevin Hart, the surprise of everyone could not be described in words. It goes without saying that absolutely nobody expected to see Katt Williams at a Kevin Hart event. But seeing him in person, fans wondered what he would do. Before Katt started roasting Kevin, he made it clear that he was surprised when he saw the invite.
I'm surprised they invited me. That's how little star power you have.
According to him, he hated Kevin but was told to come anyway. He then dragged Kevin through the mud for a few minutes. However, despite the brutal roasting of each other for showbiz, the two comedians ended up squashing their long-standing feud. Kevin Hart outrightly said he was offering Katt an olive branch and wanted them to move on, calling himself a fan of Katt's.
I am offering you an olive branch of peace. I want to be a brother. I want to be a friend.
Katt Williams stepped off the podium and walked directly towards Kevin, sharing a brief hug. Now, a lot of comedians were genuinely happy to see these two finally squash their beef on stage. A larger number of people, however, believe this was just for the culture and that the beef was nowhere near its end. Among those who were happy to see this, Country Wayne spoke on it, and anyone could tell the moment meant something deeper than just entertainment, at least to him. He showed major respect to both Kevin Hart and Katt Williams, pointing out how powerful it was to see them come together, hug it out, and put all the tension behind them. To him, that moment was exactly what the culture actually needs: unity over division. He made it clear that not just in comedy, but in a broader sense, there simply isn't enough room for separation. According to him, seeing two top figures in the game set aside their differences carried real weight, especially in an industry where conflicts often last longer than they should. He pointed out that what they did should serve as an example, that if two people at that level can come together, then others in the space have no excuse to keep holding on to unnecessary issues. Another comedian, Tony Baker, also reacted, comparing the moment to when Nas and Jay-Z famously put their differences aside. But despite all the positive reactions, not everyone is convinced the situation is fully settled. Then there's the other set of people, those who believe there's more going on behind the scenes. There's speculation that the entire moment could have been structured as part of a larger arrangement, with some suggesting that the public display of peace may have come with conditions, possibly even that it didn't require a direct verbal confirmation from Katt himself. And that's where the conversation starts to split. Is the beef between Katt Williams and Kevin Hart truly over? To understand why this feud may be far from over, it is necessary to take a step back to how it all began. Because Katt Williams has revealed things about Kevin Hart like no one else. So why was there even a beef between the two comedy giants in the first place? Katt Williams versus Kevin Hart. The year was 2008, and Katt Williams had just released his new special titled It's Pimpin' Pimpin'. This was 6 years after audiences first discovered him in the movie Friday After Next. At this time, Katt Williams was widely regarded as one of the hottest comedians in the world. He was practically dominating comedy at a certain level. Now, 2008 would become a noteworthy year for this feud. It was a kind of transition of power. There's been a belief that Hollywood has a history of pushing a single black stand-up comedian at a time. From a business lens, this explains why the world has seen one or two comedians land certain roles back-to-back. Hollywood would choose an upcoming performer and carefully, cold-bloodedly build them from nothing. Under this ongoing practice, it's easy to see how a rivalry can start amongst black comedians. The not-so-subtle message is clear. There can only be one king of comedy, and everybody wants a piece of that. Kevin Hart revealed in his book, I Can't Make This Up, that he was never intended for his role in Fool's Gold. As a matter of fact, the role had originally been for Katt Williams and was filming in Australia, but Katt ended up getting into legal trouble, which prevented him from leaving the country. The producers couldn't wait until he had sorted out his issue with the law, so the casting agents contacted Kevin's team. They needed a comedian as soon as possible to play a villain in the film named Big Bunny. So for those who don't know, that's how Kevin originally landed the role. This casting change was one of the first times people publicly began comparing the two of them. Fool's Gold wasn't Kevin Hart's first movie, though. He had been building quietly behind the scenes. In 2003, the Philadelphia comedian landed his first movie role, and in 2004, he appeared in Along Came Polly. He also landed a sitcom, which was quickly canceled, before gaining a starring role in Soul Plane. And then back to 2008, Hollywood appeared to have decided it was time to push Kevin even further. One could say they had found who they wanted to crown king of comedy. After Fool's Gold, Kevin's appearances in movies seemed endless. He shared the screen with Eddie Murphy in Meet Dave that same year. Surprisingly, according to Hart, Katt was originally considered for that role as well. Then the following year, Kevin released his first one-hour special, I'm a Grown Little Man. On the flip side, 2009 appeared to be a slowdown year for Katt Williams. Even though he released another notable special, his relationship with Hollywood began to decline. His position at the top was now being threatened. After IMDb showed that he only appeared in one film that year, things seemed to be getting worse. By 2010, Kevin Hart aligned with an all-star cast in Death at a Funeral, alongside some of the big names in the industry including Chris Rock, Tracy Morgan, and Martin Lawrence. He also landed additional roles like Little Fockers and released another comedy special, Seriously Funny. Kevin was making waves. Meanwhile, Katt only released 9 lives, but had limited film appearances. For the next couple of years, his decline continued, and Hollywood presence became nearly non-existent. In 2013, audiences saw Katt making a notable appearance in Scary Movie 5. It was during a press conference for that film that Katt publicly acknowledged a rivalry between himself and Kevin for the first time. According to him, he didn't really have any personal problem with Kevin, but he believed that if he was truly the king of comedy, then that position couldn't simply be handed to someone else. In his view, others could attempt to place the crown on someone else's head, but it wouldn't truly fit, and by others, he was clearly referring to Hollywood. Katt then claimed in an interview that he had even advised Kevin's team on how to build his career, stating that he didn't mind competition because he believed himself to be the greatest. From that point on, the rivalry wasn't just based on words, it showed in their styles. Katt's comedy appealed to audiences interested in truth, politics, and conspiracy, while Kevin represented a more mainstream, family-oriented approach. This created a clear contrast between the classic good guy versus bad guy narrative. The rivalry soon turned personal, and it continued to grow. No end in sight, the rift widens. During the Diddy saga, Katt Williams stepped into the chat and dragged Kevin Hart for filth. This time, he is selling himself to Diddy in exchange for cheap fame. By that time, Katt had been going in on Kevin for years, and it didn't look like their beef would be slowing down anytime soon. He was not letting up on Kevin, and he never missed a chance to remind Kevin that he sold himself to the industry just so he could be his replacement. According to Katt, Kevin is just a pawn on a giant chessboard who was used to get more black men into selling their souls just to be in Hollywood. Kevin did not take that lying low. He actually came for Katt a while after and called Katt a raging substance addict. And since then, it's been from one jab to another. Even though Katt and Kevin had been going at it for years, the peak of it was in 2014 when Katt appeared on Club Shay Shay and slammed Kevin for being an industry plant. He said Kevin's entire career was handed to him by some industry executives because Kevin sold his soul to them. According to Katt, these execs initially tried to get him to be their little puppet in exchange for the opportunities they were now given to Kevin. But when he made it clear that he wasn't going to compromise his morals, they blackballed him and pulled Kevin in as his replacement. Katt said none of the stories Kevin tells about his come-up are true, and that he just makes all of it up to deceive folks into thinking he hustled his way to the top when all he really did was sell his soul to his masters. In Katt's words, no one in Hollywood has a memory of going to a sold-out Kevin Hart show in 15 years. Now, many people believe the reason Katt got so intense with Kevin in the interview was because Kevin's success came at the cost of his own downfall. Katt wasn't the type to bend to the rules of the industry no matter what, and that's why they pushed him out to usher Kevin in. Kevin was willing to do whatever was being asked of him without any questions. During Katt's interview with Shannon, he even brought up the exact situation that led to the industry making the final decision to get rid of him. And it turns out it had to do with the movie Friday After Next. Apparently, the producers wanted to make a scene that involved Katt getting brutally dominated by Terry Crews in the bathroom because they thought it would be funny to see a huge muscular black man dominate a small black man in the bathroom. Katt, on the other hand, wasn't having any of the foolishness, and he straight up told them he wasn't going to do it. Katt said he later had to help them write another scene in replacement of that, but everyone made him feel like he was being stubborn. And apparently Terry Crews even tried talking him into it as well. After they filmed the movie, he was blacklisted, and every movie he was scheduled to do was snatched from him and given to Kevin. The crazy thing is, at the time all this happened, Katt wasn't the only black actor that the industry was trying to emasculate. At the time, there was a serious black men's emasculation epidemic in Hollywood, and it got so bad that Dave Chappelle had to run away to South Africa and stay there for years because they were trying to get back at him for refusing to help push the agenda of making black men effeminate. Apparently, even Kevin was made to join this agenda. But unlike Katt and Dave, he gladly did what they asked him because, well, he's a puppet. At least that's what Katt says. So, basically, Dave Chappelle appeared in an interview with Oprah Winfrey in 2006 where he spilled the tea about the time the producers of a movie he was doing with Martin Lawrence tried to get him to wear a dress against his will. But this is where things get even more interesting. Dave turned it down, but what about Kevin? Cosplaying as a woman, the dress-wearing saga. According to Dave, the producers had another script ready just in case they didn't succeed in getting him to wear the dress and cosplay as a woman. They knew what they were doing. Kevin was later asked what he thought about Dave refusing to wear the dress. He didn't mince words, and he spoke confidently about having standards and boundaries one couldn't trust. He outrightly said, wearing a dress as a man looked stupid and wondered why anyone would do that. On the face of it, he had sided with Dave, and even said he would never put on a dress because it went against his morals. But who could have guessed that not even up to a month after making this bold statement, Kevin Hart popped out on SNL wearing a purple dress and a whole lace front. He He even had a brown wig on and carried a handbag. Katt was later asked what his thoughts were on Kevin wearing a dress, and he said it wasn't Kevin's fault that he wore that dress. Katt believed Kevin was just part of a long line of black men being made to wear a dress in order to transition to that next level of fame. In his words, Kevin doesn't have to worry about what people are going to say about him wearing a dress because of the long line of dress-wearing people before him. Katt Williams may have played that off nicely, but not everyone was as cool as he was. Many people believed that Kevin wearing that dress was his final form of humiliation ritual to get everything he wanted. While he was now being given all these opportunities, Katt was by the side, getting blackballed. Katt resurfaced in an interview, criticizing several comedians, including Kevin, Tiffany Haddish, and others, again suggesting that Kevin had been strategically chosen for success. Kevin responded directly during an appearance on The Breakfast Club, arguing that Katt had been given opportunities but failed to take responsibility for his own actions, ultimately becoming a liability to studios. He called Katt a failure and said the reason why Katt isn't where he thinks he should be is because he chose to be ahead instead of focusing on his career.
My frustration with Katt Williams comes from, you keep pointing at Hollywood. Hollywood this, the white man, this, and this.
One would think that after all this back and forth, Kevin would just accept that he wasn't wrong, but he actually doesn't. He later appeared in an interview with Charlemagne and he disrespected Katt again. He brought up that interview on The Breakfast Club where he called Katt an addict, but instead of apologizing for lying to that man, he said he regrets ever even responding to Katt because he isn't worth the response in the first place. He said Katt is irrelevant and that he didn't gain anything beneficial from even going back and forth with him. He was better off staying quiet and allowing Katt to run with whatever narrative he wanted to run with. Now, Katt didn't respond immediately to this, but at this point, he has learned how to ignore Kevin. Katt later responded on Instagram, though. He defended his choices and suggested he preferred maintaining integrity over chasing success. Since then, both comedians have continued building their careers. So now, not only was Kevin enjoying everything that Katt was supposed to have, but he was now on the radio telling the world that Katt was a kid. Still, Katt went on to win an Emmy and appear in several projects, while Kevin expanded his brand with major films like Jumanji, voice roles in The Secret Life of Pets, and multiple Netflix specials. And now, Katt Williams wasn't the only one who called Kevin Hart a sellout. Everyone had now joined him in condemning Kevin. Just what did he do this time? Backlash from the community. When it comes down to the overall reviews about the roast, it appears to have received mixed responses, with one given the potential of who else could have made appearances, like Eddie Murphy or Dave Chappelle, and another large part of the negative reviews comes from viewers who were offended by some of the black jokes of the night, especially the one told about George Floyd, which went on to spark its own debate and later expose that many of the jokes people heard from the night were from a majority white writing team. May 11th was the morning after the roast. It was supposed to be only a celebration for Kevin Hart, as he had pulled such a crowd and patched things up with an old friend. But it turned into viewers calling him terrible names on social media. One even called him a bootlicker. Kevin Hart may have laughed his fill during the event, but right now his smile is frozen to his face. Roasting is supposed to be a form of joking to make fun of a particular thing about the person you're roasting. So viewers expected fun, but what they didn't expect was that the jokes would go too far, at least not as far as they did. What appears to be an issue for some viewers is that comedy should have its limits, especially when it's taken on issues of race and injustice. During the roast, comedian Tony Hinchcliffe, who is no stranger to controversial jokes, came up to roast Kevin. But he ended up making fun of the late George Floyd while supposedly making fun of Kevin. Tony went on to say, "The black community is so proud of you. Right now, George Floyd is looking up at us, laughing so hard that he can't breathe."
Black community is so proud of you. Right now, George Floyd is looking up at us all, laughing so hard that he can't breathe.
At that moment, the camera captured a wide shot of the stage, and Kevin can be seen laughing at the moment. This is the reason for his latest backlash. Many black people have either been stopped by police or have seen injustices play out in the hands of law enforcement. For those people, George Floyd's passing was not even a little bit close to funny. So, The fact that Kevin was seen laughing on stage after a white comedian blatantly implied that George was in hell and made a call back to what is considered George's last words before dying is why some online users are now calling Kevin filled with rage. But it goes further. What makes Kevin's laughter a bit more concerning for some people is that back in 2020, he had filmed himself showing how upset he was about George Floyd's death. He called the incident another pure display of hatred, racism at the highest level. And after it's over, the thing that can almost at least be corrected is the immediate reaction of consequences. According to him, the only way to make anything better is to fix what's broken with immediate consequences. He called for the cop who did it to be thrown in jail for life, not in weeks. Fast forward to the aftermath of the controversial joke. George Floyd's family is letting it be known that at the moment, they're not happy with Tony or Kevin for that matter. According to TMZ, which later reported the family's response, they shared that they felt Kevin should have expressed that George Floyd's death was a subject that should not have been joked about. But instead of showing remorse, Kevin did the exact opposite. On the morning of May 11th, after the roast, Kevin released a video responding to the night and some of the reactions. He went on to praise the night and even thanked Tony because, according to him, Tony Hinchcliffe understood the assignment and delivered it. His closing words were, "Let them fly. It's all in the efforts of being funny. It's that simple." Well, that's definitely not going to calm the community. If anything, Kevin may have just thrown a lit matchstick into a gas-filled room. It seems Kevin Hart had a lot of work to do to regain his public image. Which leads back to the question, is the feud between Katt and Kevin truly over? The tension created by Katt Williams. Needless to say, one of the most talked about moments from the entire show on Netflix was when Katt Williams surprisingly showed up to roast his longtime rival. And part of his performance addressed why he took issue with Kevin after all these years. Katt had called Kevin names before. This time, he roasted him to his face. The roasters from the night are still doing interviews about it. Meanwhile, Roastmaster General Jeff Ross has revealed what it was like behind the scenes to have had Katt show up. In an interview with Variety, Jeff admitted that Katt created some real tension for Kevin during filming. Kevin definitely looked a little tense, and it's understandable. They hadn't seen each other in years, but Kevin offered the olive branch for their beef to be buried. Immediately the tension turned into celebration, or was it? It's almost 20 years now since Katt Williams and Kevin Hart have been tearing at each other. According to Jeff Ross, the two haven't seen each other in person for some time. Back in 2024, while speaking with Shannon Sharpe, Williams also reveals that he and Kevin have never been in the same building for close to 25 years, and felt that Kevin was always dodging him the whole time. Here's another reason people believe the feud hasn't ended. During his performance, Katt openly stated that he was actually there for the money Netflix would offer him. But if anyone has been Katt in recent years, it also appears that he is at a point in his career that requires him to put energy into other things outside of beef, as he recently launched a production company and new studio. However, Katt is also a practical and straightforward man. If he said he was there just for the money, then that's probably what it was. Now, back to his interview with Variety, Jeff Ross further praised Kevin, calling him a great comic and also a really smart producer. According to Jeff, Kevin loves to follow the discomfort. If something is making him uncomfortable, it's going to be great TV. Now, as far as any further comment from Williams about the night, he has yet to share his thoughts and has not given any further insight on whether his and Kevin's beef is coming to an end. Despite the two hugging it out for viewers, several users online have continued to speculate that the beef isn't actually over, and that Katt may have gone along with it because he was there as a work for hire.
I want to be a brother, I want to be a friend. Katt, I want to move on. Can we move on, man? Can we move on?
Katt may have refrained from responding to Diddy, but he did say something at some point, just when Diddy's trial started. He said that the reason Kevin was able to sustain a good relationship with industry people like Diddy is that he's one of them, and they know he'll do just about anything to be in their circle. This might sound a little mean. Looking at his history, Kevin does seem to have a pattern of overlooking his morals just to be in the spotlight. As usual, people had their own thoughts, like this person who said, "I remember Kevin saying he was never going to wear a dress and sell out. He said it was black humiliation. See him in a dress on SNL, Less than a year later, Katt was spot on. Another person said, "While Katt seems to simply speak what he considers as the truth, Kevin, on the other hand, always attempts to diss or make mockery of Katt. I just can't see Kevin the same anymore." In the end, the rivalry persists because of everything that it's built on: the different styles, industry dynamics, and the long-standing idea that only one can truly hold the top position. And that is why Kevin Hart versus Katt Williams may never truly be over. The silence from both parties also causes people to wonder. It appears that until there's a confirmation from Katt Williams, this feud may be far from over. Do you think Kevin Hart and Katt Williams have really buried the hatchet? Or was it more about putting on a show for TV? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.